Hello, and welcome back to Ciconia When They Cry. We're at an interesting point here because currently, for me, it's February 26th, 2026, but I have no idea what day it will be if and when you actually see this, because today we're going to be starting from beyond the video upload limit that if you're seeing this was previously in place and has now been lifted, but in my timeline that hasn't happened. So I'm recording it because either way I am having fun doing the voices and stuff, and I want to read the rest of it out loud. But we'll see. I guess if you're seeing this, congratulations. Who knows? Maybe phase two is out by now, right, guys? I don't know. But yes, you're seeing this in presumably a far future from the one that I am living in. But that's okay. So yes, currently we are at this pause point. Um, but again, don't worry, because this isn't relevant anymore. I would never break these uploading rules. So we're in the middle of chapter 7. So let's keep going. Oh, and that's the end of the chapter. Okay, I was like, oh, is it ending in the middle? That is kind of weird. But yes, good. And we've got, ooh, a quote from Jestress. Where are you, bread dough? The stove's been spitting fire, searching everywhere for you. I love you, Jestress. And some of the previous ones, I've been like, every time as I've gone back in editing, I'm like, has the clock, does it always move like that? Yes, it does. Haha. Um, but it happened again. Can you believe it? Okay. Inside a massive dome was a gigantic all-weather exercise facility, large enough to fit several American football fields in. The ceiling was high too, and it felt like you could pack an entire small city in there. Countless children were doing strict military drills, and the place was filled with a mix of kids chanting and adults giving harsh instructions. 1, 2, 1, 2. Hey, you're looking sloppy. Put your heart into it. All of you except those two at the front are trash. You're imbeciles. Everyone except those two line up. Wham! Whack! Whack! All the children in the line were hit one after another. Corporal punishment against children was forbidden in all AOU educational institutions. However, since this place wasn't affiliated with any educational institution, they were allowed to use it without mercy. Well, that's not too good. Also, I'm gonna turn it down a little bit more for me. The kids seemed to be split up into classes according to their ages and builds. Overall, most of them were very young, with the very youngest class looking too young even for grade school. That's crazy. However, you wouldn't see any trace of the peaceful voices and laughter you'd expect from a kindergarten or elementary school. Even that youngest class was repeatedly yelled at by instructors, and none of their expressions looked like what you'd expect from children of that age. This scene was being filmed by several cameras and displayed in a monitor room. Gathered in that room were inspection teams of officers from all of the AOU nations, listening to a staff member explaining the situation. As the whole world knows, the most important measure of aptitude for controlling a gauntlet is P3, parallel processing power. However, this doesn't mean that anyone with high P3 levels can become a capable member of the aerial augmented infantry. If you have high P3 levels, but also an extreme fear of heights, the aerial augmented infantry is definitely not for you. If your P3 levels are decent, but your sense of spatial awareness is lacking, then you're probably not well suited for it either. Not only do you have to be in total control in midair, a place where humans are normally unable to exist, but you also need to fight and achieve victory, so several other aptitudes and talents are also required. The combination of these qualities is called aerial augmented infantry aptitude. It's not too far off from what was once demanded of fighter pilots. P3 levels, so I'm like, what voice was I doing for this random staff member? P3 levels in aerial augmented infantry aptitude. Currently, these two factors are the most highly prized, but at our institution, we've been seeking after and researching a third kind of aptitude.
Oh, hello. Ugh. And I suppose this third aptitude is fighting spirit?
Okie dokie.
That's probably true. Kids these days are totally missing that, after all.
As Okanogi gazed at the scenes of training filled with corporal punishment, he shrugged and laughed. This was the Gayroy Level 4 Heavy Military Research Center. Is that where Lilia and Koshka and maybe Chloe are from? I mean, it would make sense if Okanogi is here. I don't know. I think that's what that one was. Yes. It had once been an AOU Russia Research Center for Regenerative Medicine, but it was now run by the AOU Combined Military for the purpose of training aerial augmented infantry elites. For that reason, the staff members came from countries all over the AOU, and a mix of all sorts of languages could be heard. In this era, if you added a translation tool to your cellcom, different languages shouldn't have been a problem at all. However, people from the previous generation, like old military officers, had brains that worked extremely poorly with cellcom. So, even in this age, they needed to be accompanied by subordinates who could translate for them. The third type of aptitude is self-empowerment. You might simplify it with the word confidence. Naturally, we've always known that we humans can draw out our abilities to varying degrees depending on our confidence in ourselves. However, no one has researched how to make this happen in people outside of vague theories. How to make this happen in people outside of vague theories of mind over matter. When people who lack confidence notice something important, they sometimes think they just saw it wrong, ignoring the fact that they noticed it. However, people with confidence are sensitive even to small things they spot, and they never doubt their instincts. When flying at 140 meters per second like a fighter plane, that can be the difference between life and death. In the world of aerial augmented infantry aces, parallel thinking ability is taken for granted. On top of that, it's essential for them to have high aerial augmented infantry aptitude, as well as sufficient self-empowerment with regards to both of the first two qualities. However, self-empowerment is an acquired trait. It's considered something you gain after repeated experiences starting from infancy. In the B3W world, education that encouraged growth through praise was highly promoted, but no one ever heard of it producing favorable results. So, perhaps the strict training and corporal punishment displayed on all these monitors was this research institution's answer to that problem. Still, all these freaking old men, I'm sorry, they might just sound the same. Still, all this strictness really takes me back. After all, education's been so soft lately. In my day, it was normal to be taught with an iron fist. I suppose this man's self-empowerment can be cultivated through tough training. Well, I wonder about that. Privately, Okanogi was utterly unconvinced that this self-empowerment thing could be beaten into children. When he had been a kid, all educational institutions used corporal punishment. As the period of restoration following World War antivirus software. I still haven't figured out how to not have that pop up on the video, but whatever, I don't know. As the period of restoration following World War III continued, the world grew a bit more peaceful, and many people assumed that children who had never experienced a major war were slacking off, precisely because they were so blessed. To counter this, they were punished strictly and unreasonably. When he looked at education in the modern era, where corporal punishment was banned, he did indeed feel that those children were missing something vital that needed to be nourished. However, he was still dubious that strict corporal punishment would give them this so-called self-empowerment. Yeah, I don't think that's really... Yeah, I don't know about that. After getting scolded and beaten endlessly, plenty of them have lost hope, or they've become subservient. True, some of the ones with good grades may have achieved this so-called self-empowerment, but that has nothing to do with whether they were beaten or not. You, over there. That's exactly right. Huh? Some people with good grades have indeed achieved self-empowerment. That's correct. We realize that self-empowerment can be achieved most effectively by experiencing victory. Oh, learn the taste of victory. It will allow you to endure any sort of effort. Michael J. Jonathan. That was abrupt. It's long been known that a human's actual ability is determined by multiplying their talent by their degree of self-empowerment. No matter how much talent they've been blessed with, people who lack self-empowerment, who lack confidence, can never achieve anything. Conversely, those who lack talent from the start will be useless no matter how confident they are. In fact, they can even get in the way of those with true talent. In other words, self-empowerment must be given to those with talent. That way, those who possess superior talent will be able to multiply their actual ability several times, thanks to their superior self-empowerment levels. However, though the B3W world was aware of the existence of self-empowerment, they hadn't yet discovered how to cultivate it.
But interestingly enough, education in school was unintentionally providing an environment that encouraged self-empowerment. Gentlemen, have you ever wondered why early levels of education, like elementary schools, group all sorts of students together into classes without splitting them up depending on how good their grades are?
Generally speaking, during mandatory education in the AOU, classes were split up more or less at random. Once you reached the higher levels of education, you would usually be divided up harshly based on your grades, with everyone going to educational institutions that matched their own levels of academic talent. However, even during mandatory education, academic ability will surely differ quite a lot between children. So, why don't they split up those classes based on everyone's ability? In fact, thinking about it this way, it's almost as though they're going out of their way to distribute everyone evenly.
In biology, it's known that social animals tend to form hierarchies within their groups. Humans are the same. Until now, it was thought that this was because individuals with less ability to survive would be weeded out, allowing the strong to survive and procreate.
However, as a result of our research, we've discovered that the most important factor in self-empowerment is experiencing victory. And we've learned that the more you experience victory at a very young age, the stronger your self-empowerment will be.
True. Experiencing victory at a young age can really boost your confidence. And if you don't experience it at all in your youth, it can make you grow subservient. So, simply put, whether you're a winner or a loser in life is determined at a young age. Seriously? Who thought up this hellish technique?
I thought mandatory education was like a microcosm of society's unfairness, which you get to experience when you're young. There's good people and bad people, smart people and dumb people. If you break the rules, you get scolded. But if you're the only one following the rules, you become an outcast. You learn who you should be nice to, and who to stay away from. Even if you do nothing wrong, you can suddenly be victimized. But if you're a bit clever, you can get someone else to take the fall for you. Oh, swirly background. I I love it. I don't know. I thought man I'm sorry, we're open. I thought mandatory education was all about stuffing all kinds of people into the same class so that the rules of society can be beaten into them, even though ethics prevent teachers from saying these things flat out. But what if it wasn't about something as soft as making you experience society's unfairness? What if it has a clearer, more concrete, more educational purpose? If educators are doing that knowingly, how the hell can you call that a sacred profession? Though he smiled thinly and ironically, even Okanogi felt sick. In other words, the point of mandatory education is to lock up the elite you want to nurture the most, in the same class as their prey. At our institution, we form our classes with a clear understanding of the targets we want to develop, completely controlling the class environment in order to allow those targets to experience a sufficient amount of victory. The monitors focused in on a single instance of that rigid training. Each child was displayed with a green indicator box and ID, but just one person in that class was displayed with a blue indicator box and ID. They seemed to be doing a long-distance run, and though the child marked with blue seemed to be in pain, they remained at the head of the pack, without their pace faltering in the slightest. In comparison, the children with the green indicators were clearly exhausted, and some of them seemed to be giving it their all just pretending to run. An instructor blew his whistle, and the run ended. Everyone lined up. The blue child was incredibly exhausted, but still seemed to have quite a bit left in the tank, so they were able to swiftly reach their place in the line. However, all the green children were clearly staggering, which seemed to earn them the instructor's wrath almost immediately. Several people who had moved slowly were called forward and beaten, one after another. The girl with the blue box is the development target of this class. All the green boxes are merely part of the environment constructed to let the target experience victory. Now, look over here. We've measured that girl's current condition. A different monitor was showing various graphs based on all sorts of data being measured by the girl's internal AMOS. This was right after heavy exercise, so her physical readings had declined due to exhaustion. However, several graphs showed that her mental condition had actually improved. These indicate several positive reactions that can lead to improved self-empowerment, such as a sense of accomplishment and exhilaration. These are the result of an unconscious sensation of superiority, which is produced by the fact that the target achieved the best grades in her class, as well as the fact that those with the lowest grades were punished, but not her.
So, she's a farmed winner.
I prefer the term well-managed winner. Her class has been assembled for the purpose of allowing her to experience victory.
Won't that sometimes give her a big head and make her stop trying to work hard?
Pardon me, Your Excellency, but hard work is only necessary for average people who don't measure up. Not even 200,000 children across the whole world have enough talent to join the aerial augmented infantry, making use of the Gauntlet's cutting-edge technology. Those with sufficient P3 levels and aerial augmented infantry aptitude can be in the top 1%, are geniuses. No, you might even call them super geniuses. What they need isn't hard work, but enough self-empowerment to give them confidence in their genius. Of course, geniuses who work hard will surpass those who don't, but that's a whole different story, so we don't need to go into it now.
So, is that white girl on the monitor one of those super geniuses? Your Excellency, she's one of ours.
Oh, really? She's Second Lieutenant Chloe Ironside, formerly of the Canadian Air Force. I was thinking about Chloe, because I remembered her profile said, like, she got good grades until, like, she was put into group work. So, okay, I'm assuming we're kind of having a flashback. But this is making me think about all of the, Gauntlet Knights that we've met so far. It's like, okay, so probably most or all of them were also, like, put into similar situations. I see. Sweating buckets after her long-distance run, Chloe stood at attention, absent-mindedly looking at the poor performers who were being punished. She neither pitied them nor felt superior to them. But was that really true? In fact, it wasn't. She couldn't fully deny that part of her was relieved that she wasn't joining them, and she did feel superior.
Where's your fighting spirit? Stand! I can't believe people like you ever thought you could join the aerial augmented infantry. Did you think a gauntlet is some sort of magical device that can make gutless people like you fly through the air? Don't underestimate the aerial augmented infantry. Don't underestimate what it takes to be a soldier.
The beatings continued on and on. This wasn't a school, so there was no escape. You had to undergo harsh training to become a Gauntlet Knight and remain victorious through your exams. And you weren't even allowed to leave until that period of time ended. All of them had signed admission contracts while fully aware of this. However, everyone who filled out the general public application form would be marked with a green box. They wanted to fly. They wanted to become heroes of the sky. But this institution never had any intention of granting that childish, innocent dream these children all shared. All of them were merely being thrown from a cliff into a kettle, still believing that they'd be able to fly. They had been gathered here as fertilizer for the blues, the true development targets of this institution. That's crazy. It's like obviously you know that it's like messed up and like in the profiles they were talking about like the oh yeah the 3-year-old aptitude test or whatever. But it's yeah, I see. So when the punishment of poor performers is more strict, the experience of victory becomes greater. Contingency fees and other methods that reward success are not cost effective. They're useful when dealing with an extremely limited group of elites, but it's impossible to reward everyone suitably that way. Okanogi, that girl represented us at the Battle Standard Festival, right? Oh, okay. So maybe we're not in the past, but this is just part of their normal training. I don't know, I'm a little confused, but interesting, interesting. Yes, as part of Gravemore. Her talent and aptitude are definitely top class, but it hasn't led to results for some reason, so she was sent here. Okay. Yeah, okay, so we're in like the present right now, but it seems like because Chloe hasn't been showing up for a while, like when everyone was pep talking, Meow, for like in the bathhouse room, she wasn't there as like part of the girls group or whatever. So yeah, okay, I see. I suppose she was diagnosed with a lack of self-empowerment. That's right. Oh wait, I don't. Whatever. They're all old men. I don't know if but that's not true. But I don't know. That's right. No matter how much I tell her, that nincompoop is always nervous, totally lacking confidence in herself. Haven't I karate chopped her enough by now? Chloe has entered the room, Moya. Meow meow meow. Welcome back, meow. I'm back. I'm so tired. Look, Chloe, you're way too low key again. Get fired up! Get fired up! Meow! Shut up, Lilia. Sorry, I'm still reading it wrong in my head. Try and control the adrenaline under control, you ghetto. Think something got sent to you. And Chloe, try keeping your adrenaline up a bit more. I'll bet you screwed up and got slapped. I worked really hard today. Just now, the people who were slow got hit a lot. Yeah, sucks to be them, meow. If they're giving up after a little training like this, there's no way they understand what it takes to become a gauntlet knight, meow meow. Lilia sure is lucky being able to get such a high after winning against Small Fry. Of course, meow. I'm the best in the world, so everyone else is Small Fry to me, meow. Of course, that includes you and Chloe too. I'm not a Small Fry, even though I'm trying my best. Every single one of you is a Small Fry, except me, meow. You look at meow. Lilia's sensation data was projected into the three girls' virtual room. They seemed to be doing parallel thinking training, and Lilia, covered with sweat, was proudly celebrating her victory, checking her score with her mental monitor. Lilia was in first place, with a P3 level that far surpassed second place. She was one of AOU Finland's top aerial augmented infantry aces. Naturally, a normal trainee wouldn't be able to match her. So, even Lilia didn't view this as a competition to get first place. She was just challenging her own boundaries, like it was a game. However, she still seemed immensely satisfied when she saw how much she'd overpowered the others on the score chart. However, Chloe was far more worried by the audio data, which carried the voice of an instructor lambasting the poor performers. The instructor's insults were a simple collection of verbal attacks against their character. Just a torrent of words meant only to wound their targets, shame them, and cause them mental anguish. Chloe, who could sympathize with their pain, bit her lower lip and hung her head. Is there something wrong with me? Is Lilia the one who's right? There's nothing wrong with you. Is that what you want me to say? It's not that. If you don't like it when people get beaten down and cry, you should quit and leave your spot open for someone else. That way, one of the people who would have been crying won't have to. I just wanted to fly. But no one ever told me that I'd have to beat a whole bunch of people down, that I'd be forced to watch them cry. Don't be so soft. Am I soft? That's wrong, isn't it? Isn't it? You can't reach the sky just by stretching out your hand, meow. Is it never possible to achieve your dreams without using someone else as a stepstone? Why should we have to compete and take each other out? Because a lot of brats want to fly, obviously. Only a few people can become gauntlet knights, meow. So you've got to beat them. You've got to beat them down for the sake of your own dreams. You know what? You know what? In the first place, why are there so many of us here? Because they're making a lot of them. Humanity was almost destroyed in that big war. So we need to have a lot of kids to increase the population. I get that. But you know what? A century is now past, and civilization has already recovered to this point. Isn't that enough? Why are they still making more of them? Why do they keep making so many kids? See, meow. You can never have too many dice ready for the next time you'll need to roll them, meow. Dice? Just dice in someone's game? I assume this is Chloe still. We're probably getting born in numbers several times larger than is strictly necessary. And we're competing with each other and being forced to eat each other, so that only the kind of kids the adults want are left. You're a die that rolled a 6. Oh my gosh. Higurashi head's going crazy right now. So, you get to fly with a gauntlet. That's right, meow. We're all 6s, nothing more to it, meow, meow. So, it's not like we're bringing anyone down. The ones just get weeded out on their own. Is that true? Am I really not bringing anyone else down? I'm sorry, Koshka, Lilia. Again, I'm getting so negative, I don't even know what I'm saying. You shut up your meds a bit, meow. If you take the right amount, you can be happy all the time, just like me, meow, meow. Lilia might have taken a slightly different amount of stimulants today. She was acting even more hyper than usual. Chloe, on the other hand, had apparently been born with a natural resistance to stimulants. So, unfortunately, a quick shot of drugs wasn't enough to make her suddenly happy. You aren't a 1, Chloe. For now, just relax and don't think about it. Aw, Koshka. I'm so tired, I'm losing focus. Thanks, Koshka. Oh? Okay, she became blue. Chloe has exited the room, Clam. It's that part of her personality that got her sent to this crazy research center, meow. She sure has it rough. Well, you and I are the ones making it about 3 times rougher for her, meow. If the world's hard for Chloe to live in, but easy for broken people like us, then it's the world that's really screwed up. It would have been better if the Earth had been destroyed in World War III. It was, meow. That's why this is the world of death after its destruction. So we're in the pits of hell. I hope this world gets destroyed soon, Meow. I'll definitely destroy it. This screwed up world. Hills is on Ciconia. Hi, everyone. Where's Chloe? You just missed her, Meow. It's just her usual self-hatred. She needs to take more meds. Poor thing. How was it on your end, Meow? I guess you could say it was a nice meal. People who roll a 6 or a 7 have it so easy. It's enough to make you jealous. Yeah, Gunhill wasn't, like, brought into this until she was, like, 12, if I remember correctly, or something like that. So she probably had it rough as well. Chloe! She had never expected to run into Okanogi in a place like this. She was so surprised, she literally leapt to attention. Okanogi briskly walked over to Chloe, who almost seemed to be in a state of suspended animation, like a frog being stared at by a snake. Then, he applied a running start super ultra Okanogi chop to her head at a perfect angle. Seriously, what are you doing, slacking off in your training just because I'm not watching? I saw the whole thing from the monitor room. What do I keep telling you? If you're moping about, that means you aren't using your full strength. And you're really, really giving it your all. You've got to empty your mind. Your mind was wandering while you thought about something pointless, and you hesitated, right? I can tell. I can tell everything you're thinking by the way you hang your head, by the angle of your jaw. I'm so sorry, instructor. I saw your scores for the few days since you came here, and they're pathetic. You're useless, you're scum, and your grades are all trash. Smack! Whomp! Whack! He chopped Chloe's head over and over again. Her grades here hadn't actually been bad. However, Okanogi yelled at her, saying they were completely horrible, and chopped her again and again. This is sad. Smack. Whack. Oh, Okanogi! So this is where you were. Could you translate for me again? Hey, isn't that the girl from before? She was training like a coward, so I decided to inject her with some fighting spirit. What do you think you're doing? Please don't interfere with development targets without permission. Corporal punishment against a target can disrupt their self-empowerment and... Shut up! If you give Chloe this kind of fancy training in this fancy institution, she'll never turn her cowardice into fighting spirit. The best way to get her fired up is with a chop. Stop that at once. Physical punishment will damage her self-empowerment. Bro, what do you think, what do you think they were doing in the running, oh my god, I don't know. Let's go, Chloe. Huh? What? Koshka and Lilia are equipment from here, but not you, and this place isn't suited for you anyway. We're leaving. Your fighting spirit's been led astray by worldly desires, but I'll beat it back into shape. Maybe, I don't know. Obviously, he should not be freaking hitting her and stuff, but maybe he's trying to get her out of here because he doesn't, approve of this method. I don't know. Yes! You can't do that, Captain Okanogi. Unless you follow the proper procedures. Listen up. This broken style of training might work for people who are already broken. Koshka and Lilia are basically broken problem children. They're both treated like equipment here, after all. So, go ahead and make use of them however you please. However, Chloe hasn't broken yet. She isn't broken yet.
So putting her through a broken training regime would be utterly pointless, you see? You've got to train her in a way that's not so cold-blooded, are you getting me? Let's go, Chloe.
Yes, sir, instructor!
I see Okinogi is still quite the hot-blooded demon instructor. Ho ho ho. That's right. I've got one more thing to say to you.
What is it?
It's true that Koshka and Lilia are your equipment. However, Grave Mole's training instructor is me, Okinogi Tetsuro. It's not just Chloe. Just you try screwing around with those two. I'll land one of my hot-blooded punishment chops on your head too. That's all. Let's go, Chloe. 1, 2. 1, 2.
You're that, instructor.
Yes, I really do prefer Okinogi's methods.
Interesting. As always, you could say Okinogi is a very interesting character.
So then I told them, Meow, I'm not your doll, Meow.
Did you actually say it with your mouth? I'll bet she just said it in her head.
I did say it with my mouth, Meow. I may have whispered a bit, but said it with my mouth, Meow.
There's no way you said it with your mouth. Pomegate? I have not seen that word.
Huh?
Oh, she's speaking Russian, so her translator might be malfunctioning. I'll try to pronounce it. Ne Trogite Osteronso. That was Koshka? This
Looks like Koshka's Kizuna is freaking out again, Meow.
was then that's that yeah, that's that bad
That's hilarious, Meow. I'll record it so I can play it back and laugh at her later, Meow.
Sorry. It suddenly got rough. Are you okay? Not exactly.
I wanna call it a day. It's starting to get pretty rough on my end too, Meow.
The guys today are sloppy. The drugs have worn off and it's getting seriously.
Split the room due to an error, Poyo.
Oh my.
Let's call it a day then, Meow.
You do your best too, Lilia.
You should be saying that to my doctors, not me, Meow. So, see you later, Gunhit. Lilia has exited the room due to an error, Poyo.
The difference between people who get to enjoy their youth and those who can't is harsh.
Kashka has entered the room, Poyo. Kashka has exited the room due to an error, Poyo. Kashka has entered the room, Poyo. Kashka has exited the room due to an error, Poyo. Kashka has entered the room, Poyo.
Esperanza, no. I think I'll head out too. Koshka, Lilia, take care. No.
Hill has exited the room, Poyo. Now that's how you're supposed to leave a room, Poyo. I wish Koshka and Lilia would learn from her, Poyo.
No. No. Koshka's body lay on top of a bed. However, this wasn't a bed for sleeping on. Several harnesses were attached to it, and it was connected to various machines. Men in airtight suits were staring at the various graphs being displayed on those machines. Oh, yeah, that's not too good looking. As she lay on the bed, Koshka was naked. They hadn't even given her a single piece of clothing to cover herself with. However, her being naked was relatively unembarrassing. After all, at least her body was still covered by flesh. Data transfer normal. It's still holding at the Madonna's maximum speed. The burden on the Pandora is increasing. Should we administer more painkiller? No, wait. That'll add noise. I want to hold at the current rate. Koshka's head had been opened. Her head, her bones, her blood vessels, nerves, and brainstem, her cerebrum, cerebellum, and diencephalon. All of them had been spread out from the inside so that they covered even more area than her body. However, she wasn't the only one. With her at the center, at least 10 other girls had their heads opened up in the same way. Only the lights of the machine's monitors eerily lit the doctors who had entered this room with airtight suits. Subjects 040 through 048 are still null. We've confirmed that 049 received a signal. The experiment's over for 048 and under. Dispose of them. The lights disappeared around all but one of the girls, and they were swallowed by the darkness. The remaining girl was apparently being made to reproduce something from inside Koshka's brain. However, it didn't seem to be going smoothly. The machines monitoring the girl designated as 049 began to sound alarms one after another, and the pace of those alarms began to gradually increase. 049 is receiving the signal well. There's some noise, but it's minimal. The Pandora has been at the pain limit level for over a minute now. We'll need the Director General's permission to continue the experiment any longer. How well is 049 receiving? What's the noise rate? It's at 0.193. That's a good number, but no, that's a long way from our goal of 1.15. Suspend the experiment. Apply painkillers to the Pandora. It's up to the surgery team now. 040 through 049 will be disposed of in accordance with the Human Rights Manual. Yeah, human rights. Hello. 12 seconds have passed since 040 through 049 were injected with hypnosine. Hypnosine? Okay, that should be humane enough. Send them over to the examination department. A clunk. Loud metallic sounds rang out at once. The beds of the girls surrounding Koshka delivered them into a gaping abyss. Their faces hadn't even been stitched back together to resemble how they had looked in life. Of course, none of those pitiful girls had volunteered to become specimens in this kind of experiment. They had only volunteered because of their innocent dream of flying in the sky. However, these applicants were all greens. The blue candidates, who actually would be able to fly, had already been chosen when they were all fertilized eggs. Now administering painkillers. The Pandora has left the pain limit level. If we had another Pandora, I would have wanted to push through. It's too bad. Have we still not been able to find a spare? Well, Pandora's box was a gift from the gods, after all. Then I guess we can't expect to get a replacement for Miss Kitty here. We'll make good, precious use of you for a long time. Yikes. Koshka's bed automatically moved and disappeared through an automatic door. It was heading towards the surgery department. There, her head would be put back together again, by a 4D printer and robot arms. They had already made a stock of Koshka's skulls using synthesized calcium. The pains finally died down. Is anyone there?
Lilia has entered the room, Cleo. Lilia has exited the room due to an error, Cleo.
Oh my.
Lilia has entered the room, Cleo. Lilia has exited the room due to an error, Cleo. Lilia has entered the room, Cleo. The room's hot. Keep playing.
What are you doing? Oh, what the heck's that supposed to mean? I'll record it so I can play it back and laugh at her later. Oh, doctor, that new look really suits you. The man she called doctor rubbed his head embarrassedly. He apparently still wasn't used to the feel of it, like someone who had just changed their hairdo. Even translation, when done in excess, can be harmful to the body. How about a change in atmosphere? Would you like to take a walk with me? The man had apparently been literally buried in a pile of thick, gorgeous books with antique bindings, reading constantly. He would read one, then put it on the pile, read another, then put it on the pile, and after they piled up into a tower, they fell over. Apparently, those books were so interesting that he kept reading them even after he had been buried. Vera dragged the man out from there. Even then, the man looked like he still wanted to read more. But immediately, he realized that Veer was surely going to show him something interesting again. Intriguing, aren't they? Those books by the best translators throughout history. They're all fellow captives of God's wisdom, just like us. The little things they noticed in their process of trial and error still contribute to our modern translation and discoveries. Judging by the pile of books you read, I suppose you're interested in the eternal youth variety of immortality, yes? There's no need to be embarrassed. The ability to focus on one's greatest interest is one of the most important driving forces we have. Eternal youth. It's a wonderful theme that we can never help but be entranced by. Several of our comrades have used all sorts of methods to try and translate the wisdom leading to that goal. If you're interested, they can guide you as well. Eternal youth. To remain young in body and mind, released from the bonds of death, living forever. It's one of humanity's ultimate dreams. Our comrade in that room has been fascinated by the same dream. Why don't you go watch him? Oh, my mistake. I believe he got bored of that and now he's working on translating teleportation. Instead of him, you should try the comrade in this room. In every single room, they were researching super technology that the outside world would have considered fantasy. When they stood in front of one of the rooms, the automatic door opened with a soft sound. Inside was a chaotic mishmash of complicated, strange machines, plumbing, and power cords. The Amos the Amos he's currently using in his research is capable of making the human body forever young. On that point, at least, I believe his project has achieved success. On a mid-air display was a bizarre figure that resembled a bacteriophage. It looked like an inorganic object, or maybe a robot, or maybe a life form. Or maybe none of those things. It's strange. The closer we get to unraveling the mysteries of life, the more the form that takes shape seems to resemble something or other that God has already created. It truly is intriguing. What? If we can already create immortality, you want to give it a try? So brave of you, but perhaps you had better wait until his project is complete. It will make you immortal, but as a side effect, it will inflame the skin all over your body, give you pimples and blisters, wear out your whole body with fevers, and even impair your consciousness, or something like that. It's still quite distant from what you were hoping for, yes? Even so, he certainly has succeeded in translating part of God's wisdom. When I think about his joy, it makes me jealous. Still, where could he be? It's rare not to see him here. Oh, that's where he was. I suppose we ought to leave him be. Veer giggled as she left the room with the man who was following her. On one of the pipes in the distant back of that chaotic room, the room's owner had hung himself. He didn't seem to have done it recently, but, thanks to his magnificent Amos, he was probably still alive. Veer and the man went further and further down a large spiral stairway, descending into the abyss. They reached the lowest level of this underground laboratory. The spiral staircase ended in a massive ring-shaped catwalk. Below that, it was pitch black. The catwalk had fencing that went to about waist height. However, that was utterly unreassuring after viewing the abyss below them, which swirled down and was filled with an eerie black. Hello. Okay, I want to check the profiles and see if these are actually like this isn't quite Lingji's hairstyle, even though she has like the braids. So, and I'm trying to remember like who else has of the girls at least like I don't think any of them really have that exact hairstyle. So, maybe they're not all like, you know, people that we know. I'm just like some of them last time I remember they kind of maybe resembled them. I was like, I don't know. Anyways, don't mind him. We just came here for a walk. The man hadn't thought anyone else would be there, so the sight of the girls left him unable to stand, as he reacted like a shocked child. Those girls were the guards of this underground laboratory. Their only job was to protect this sacred place, but it wasn't clear if they were really girls. Once you experienced the way they felt like something else that only looked like girls, their mere presence would be enough to terrify you. The girls once again erased all signs of their presence, fading into the darkness, but their gazes never left fear. This is my favorite place. Please look into the darkness beneath you. That is the type of wisdom being translated here, or perhaps it is still waiting to be translated, which grabs my heart the strongest. The man peered into the darkness. It was such a dark abyss that even doing this scared him. However, as his eyes adjusted, he spotted something massive, which looked like a man-made object. The thing, which seemed to lead down into a real abyss, or possibly the depths of hell itself, was a gigantic hatch. What do you think lies beyond that door? Beyond that lies the future. Literally, the future of 1,000 years from now. That was all Vera knew about what lay in the pit beneath them. It had already been there when she first came here. However, she didn't know who had translated it or when. Records that had been left behind had only told her of its existence. According to the partial translation that remains, a twisted, isolated space-time is sealed up in there. She knew nothing of how it worked or what its significance was. However, it was said that those depths held a completed product whose translation had been finished. Something was locked inside that hatch, and it was directly linked to the future a millennium from now. In other words, the instant you go down that hatch, you'll time slip 1,000 years into the future. Of course, unlike that failed immortality Amos you just saw, you'll be able to remain healthy, instantly time slipping a millennium ahead without melting away. In other words, it truly was a door into the next millennium. From what I can tell reading the remnants of the translation, rather than literally sending you 1,000 years into the future, time within it apparently freezes for 1,000 years. No, strictly speaking, the sections of space-time on both sides are separated. And mumble mumble. Well, in that sense, it really is fitting to call it a time capsule. We're talking about 1,000 years. Beyond there lies unknown civilizations, unknown arts, unknown knowledge. Isn't that a dream? Just imagining those things is what I love most. Though some of our dreamless comrades say that humanity will probably have been destroyed 1,000 years from now. This time capsule hadn't been activated yet. It was still empty on the inside. Since someone had made it, it must have been done to send something 1,000 years into the future. So, what was supposed to be inside there? That much hadn't been translated yet. It's a 1,000 year gift box created by the wisdom of God. What in the world belongs in there? A person? A thing? Knowledge? Or will it stay there empty for 1,000 years? If humanity of the future opened it, with high hopes for what's inside, would they despair when they found out it was empty? That's another thing that's fun to imagine. The man with beer, disturbed by the darkness beneath them, kept on rubbing his head, seemingly unable to calm down. The top of his head looked as though it had been sliced horizontally through the center of his forehead, and was completely flat. Maybe he found rubbing his flat head amusing, because he giggled nervously and kept rubbing it over and over. Interesting. Okay, and that's the end of the chapter. Always fun to see what they're up to down here. Let's see. All right, we've got another quote. So I think that's a good place to stop for now. Again, this and any other future episodes will be uploaded if and when the video upload limit is removed from phase 1 of Ciconia. So we'll see if you ever get to hear this. You could say it's like a time capsule of our own. Maybe you'll hear it in 1,000 years. But if you have, then thank you very much for watching, and I will see you next time. Goodbye.